About a month ago, the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection was released on the Nintendo Switch, and it contains 3 games: Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. For many people, this collection has allowed them to experience these classics for the very first time. For speedrunning veterans of these games, the release of 3D All-Stars has been an interesting event, both as a fun way to see how the updated versions play compared to the originals, and as an opportunity to introduce potential newcomers to their speedrunning scene. Chances are that you clicked on this video because either you want to get into speedrunning the games within 3D All-Stars, or that you're curious about what's changed between the original versions and the re-releases. In today's video, I will go over a handful of speedrun tricks, skips, and techniques that are prevalent in all 3 games in this collection, testing if they still work, as well as documenting how veteran speedrunners feel about the 3D All-Stars versions, and the differences that potentially make or break the speedrun. But before I begin, I would like to quickly thank everyone for 10,000 subscribers. The support on this channel lately has been absolutely insane, and I want to give a very big sincere thank you. That being said, only a very small percentage of my newfound audience is actually subscribed, so if you end up enjoying this video, please subscribe. It's free and you can change your mind at any time. So, without further ado, let's go through each game in order of their original release. Starting off with Super Mario 64, let's try out Cannonless. In Womp's Fortress, there's a star called Blast Away the Wall. Here, you must shoot Mario out of a cannon in order to uncover a star wedged in this corner. Unlocking the cannon, however, wastes time, and speedrunners have found a way to collect the star without even opening it. In between the destructible and non-destructible portion of the wall is a tiny ledge near the star, and by using a setup, speedrunners can consistently snag the star without a cannon. But does it still work in 3D All-Stars? Yes. Yes, it does. The hitboxes and level geometry in 3D All-Stars do not appear to be altered from the original game, meaning this trick will still work. By following a tutorial online, you can try this trick out for yourself, although 3D All-Stars does introduce an annoying change in the setup. For some strange reason, Nintendo decided to uninvert the camera controls for the X-axis, which can really screw up your muscle memory if you're used to the original game, and there's no option to invert it again, which I find really dumb. The same issue applies to the Y-axis for the first person in cannons, so be warned. Thankfully, Nintendo seems to have addressed this criticism by announcing a new update to 3D All-Stars. This update will allow for the player to change the camera controls to match their preference, and while I find it baffling that this wasn't a feature at launch, I guess it's better late than never. Similar to Cannonless, all the other clips in the game appear to work in 3D All-Stars as well, including, but not limited to, the Bob-omb Clippy for the Chain Chomp star, the elevator skip in Hazy Maze Cave, and the infamous MIPS clip, which allows for the 30-star door to be skipped, allowing the game to be beaten with 16 stars. That is, in the original version, because unfortunately in 3D All-Stars, the MIPS clip is worthless because the backwards long jump has been patched. That's right, the BLJ that we all know and love will unfortunately not work in 3D All-Stars. For the uninitiated, the BLJ is a trick that exploited the lack of a negative horizontal speed cap for Mario on the ground. By long jumping backwards up steep slopes, stairs, rising elevators, or under low ceilings, Mario can build up hyperspeed, which allows for many of the game's star doors to be skipped, and in the original, the BLJ allowed for the game to be beaten with no stars at all. However, in 1997, an updated version of the game was released only in Japan known as the Shindu version, which altered some voice clips, changed the pole grab mechanics, and patched BLJs. The Shindu version would be the basis for the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console re-releases in Japan, but only in Japan. This changed, however, with 3D All-Stars on the Switch, as every version of Mario 64 in the collection is based on the Shindu version now, which explains why BLJs are patched and not any of the other tricks. One last trick I want to go over before moving on is a bit of a more obscure one, known as frame walking. This trick is only useful for a single star in Jolly Roger Bay, and is the only trick from the original that is easier to perform in 3D All-Stars. Frame walking is a trick originally used for the A button challenge, a challenge run with the objective of collecting all 120 stars with as few A presses as possible. Frame walking is performed by tapping the analog stick all the way up and all the way back into the neutral position every other frame. Very few humans could pull it off on an official controller, but that is no longer the case in 3D All-Stars. Here, the directional inputs for Mario aren't just limited to the left analog stick, but also digitally mapped to the D-pad. The D-pad is not only a great way to compensate for the lack of notches on the Switch controllers, but it also allows frame walking to be possible with rhythmic mashing. This saves time over using the cannon and is much easier than it looks. In conclusion, Mario 64 speedrunning is much more restrictive in 3D All-Stars due to it running based on the Shindu version. While all other glitches and tricks still work, including an easier frame walk, the established SM64 runners will continue to stick with the original version on the original N64 console. I would also discourage new runners to speedrun on 3D All-Stars, since they'll likely want to start off with 16 star, which is not possible in this version. Moving on to Super Mario Sunshine, the requirements to beat this game is much different than in 64. Instead of collecting 70 stars to reach the end of the game, the player must collect the 7th Shine Sprite in each of the main worlds, which always involves defeating Shadow Mario. Unlike 64, the missions must be done in their intended order, and no Shine Sprites belonging in the future missions will be physically present in earlier missions, with 2 exceptions. The Shines belonging to Bianco Hills Episode 2, and Gelato Beach Episode 8. The former seems to be the only shine of the 2 intended to be obtained early, while the Gelato 8 shine is encased in a glass tube and is only supposed to be obtained from winning the watermelon contest. Speedrunners, of course, have found a way to obtain this shine early by clipping into the hut using a coconut, allowing Episode 7 to be accessed right away. This is by far the biggest trick in the Any% run, and skips almost all of Gelato Beach. Sounds amazing, right? Well, does it still work in 3D All-Stars? Indeed it does! And not only does Gelato Beach skip still work, but every single glitch or skip that works in the original works too. Like with Mario 64, the level geometry and physics have not changed from this version of the game that it's based on, which in Sunshine's case is the PAL version. Now, for the original game, the Japanese version was overall the fastest version for speedrunning due to it having faster load times, but it had a couple of disadvantages compared to the later PAL release, such as a stricter goop cleaning requirement for Serena Beach Episode 6, and lacking the fruit storage glitch, which makes the difficult early Yoshi Go-Round skip much easier. In addition to all the major tricks, skips, and glitches for Sunshine working in 3D All-Stars, a vital technique known as spam spraying is much easier on the Switch compared to the GameCube version. You see, the GameCube controller has 2 types of inputs for the L and R triggers, analog and digital. The triggers, when not pressed down all the way, is an analog input, but when held down until it clicks, is the digital input. To perform spam sprays, you must be jumping and pressing A and digital R simultaneously and continuously to spam spray. On a GameCube controller, this is difficult to consistently perform and can hurt your hands if you're not careful. Because the Switch controllers lack the analog triggers that the GameCube controllers have, the analog R input is digitally mapped to ZR while digital R is remapped to R. While this has a disadvantage with water from the spray nozzle taking slightly longer to come out, the spam spray is much more consistent and makes previously difficult shines such as the Manta fight and cleaning Serena Beach a walk in the park. Speaking of cleaning the beach, there's a strange glitch that happens here and not in the original game. At seemingly random times with this mission, the game will stop the timer and come to an end, thinking that the beach has been completely cleaned. This is because of an emulator glitch, and was previously present in an obsolete version of the Dolphin emulator. Unfortunately, there seems to be no way to consistently replicate this, meaning it's yet another RNG element to tack on to the run. Overall, speedrunning Mario Sunshine in 3D All-Stars is surprisingly solid. Now, I don't anticipate most Sunshine speedrunners ditching the original version to run the Switch version instead, but that hasn't stopped others like the greatest player of all time himself, Nindede, from achieving remarkable times on this version. For new runners, muscle memory isn't as much of an issue, and since all the tricks still work along with the spam spray improvements and easier access to the fastest language, Italian, this version is a great way to get into speedrunning Sunshine. So, we currently covered the tricks and glitches that still work in 64 and Sunshine. So let's talk about the game that a lot of you probably aren't familiar in a speedrunning sense. Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy is a bit of an interesting case. Unlike the other two games in the collection, which are merely remastered ports running on emulators, Galaxy was completely recompiled for the Switch version, which in layman's terms means that the source code was rearranged and used to make Galaxy run natively off the Switch hardware rather than emulated. This was done due to needing to make the Wii's motion and pointer controls work on the Switch without a sensor bar. This does not seem to have an effect on the game's physics nor the level geometry. Since the majority of the skips in Galaxy are based on gravity or physics exploits, this means that big skips such as the one in Honey Hive 1, Ghostly Galaxy, Mega Legs Moon, the first Bowser stage, and the weird Honey Climb Galaxy glitch still work. However, as I mentioned before, the controls are much different on the Switch compared to the Wii, which means there's some changes in the techniques that may be possible between the Wii version and the Switch version. For starters, the regular spin can be performed with a button press, and not just a waggle. When used in tandem with the Switch button remapping feature, this means that spins after ground pounds can be performed much easier and quicker, and is useful for skips such as the one in Honey Hive Galaxy. In addition, the pointer on the screen seems to have a bigger hitbox, meaning that it's much easier to collect star bits, and there's the potential to cut down on the star bit grinding needed for the 120 stars category. One technique that speedrunners use in the Wii version, however, is far less obvious. You know how you spin with Mario by waggling the Wiimote, right? Well, you could do the same by shaking the nunchuck, except this spin isn't exactly the same as the Wiimote spin. You see, this is what is known as a nunchuck spin. It's like a regular spin, except while you're in midair, it gives you less height than just a regular spin. This is useful whenever you want to land quicker after spinning, spinning quicker after a wall kick, or to spin faster after pressing jump, which makes movement much tighter and helps nail tricks such as the Honey Climb wall glitch much more consistently. It is also worth noting that these types of spins are reversed when playing as Luigi. Unfortunately on Switch, pressing the button or shaking with the Pro Controller will only allow you to do primary Wiimote spins. Does that mean that nunchuck spinning isn't possible? No, not at all. You just gotta play with Joy-Cons, that's all. Since the Joy-Cons are detached controllers like the Wiimote and Nunchuck were, the different spin types are remapped to the others' motion controls. Again, it's great that a valuable piece of tech is still in the Switch version, but it means you have to play with Joy-Cons, which are perfectly fine controllers, absolutely no problems whatsoever. Pfft, drifting? What even is that? That doesn't exist. All joking aside, playing with the Joy-Cons isn't bad when it's not drifting. Besides, you have access to the fastest language, Korean, and also the loads are much faster on the Switch. Even some high-level runners, such as Odmi, have even said that they preferred running on the Switch version compared to the original, which is not something I heard any of the 64 or Sunshine runners ever say. That being said, a lot of runners still prefer to run on the original Wii version, but it's nice to see some others like the 3D All-Stars version as well. To wrap things up, if you have a Switch and the 3D All-Stars collection, you can get into speedrunning Super Mario Sunshine and Galaxy without much issue, as all the relevant tricks, skips, and glitches still work. Super Mario 64, on the other hand, not so much. It's also worth noting that the leaderboards for speedruns of the 3D All-Stars versions of the games are on separate leaderboards from the original versions, so keep that in mind if you plan to submit your runs. So, if you're interested in speedrunning these games, what version do you plan to run on? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you liked this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing and following my Twitter. The support lately has been unreal, and I want to say thank you all so much. It means the world to me. And remember to shoot for the moon.